Welcome everybody. In this tutorial series, I'm going to show you how to program in HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and in 1 hour, you are going to know how to program in HTML. This course is fantastic for beginners, so if you've never programmed before, this is the course you want to take. I have a ton of 1 hour videos where I show you how to program something in 1 hour, do something in 1 hour. This is where you want to start. Everything builds off of HTML, especially because a lot of the things that are being programmed now are being programmed in HTML5, meaning that it starts off with HTML. Now, this course, again, is only 1 hour, and you don't really need a lot. All the things that are within this course are free. All you need is Google Chrome, and you need a website called JSBin, and I'll show you how to do all of this stuff within the course here. But the best part about this course is that once you go through this hour, and all you really have to do is just do everything that I do within this hour, what ends up happening is that you have actually learned how to program in a little bit. And if you go through that step, you will become a programmer later on if you continue to program. So I hope to see you in the course, and at the end of the course, you'll know how to program in HTML. I'll see you guys in the course. Welcome everybody. Alright, so before we get started with the course, there's a few things that we need to set up before that. The first thing you need to do is you need to go to JSBin.com, and you can go ahead and you can sign up for your own account there. It's all free, etc. Now, the thing about this, once you sign in, you can actually save what you do, and I highly recommend saving everything you do. It's kind of like sketches. If you're an artist or something like that, you want to save everything that you do. And just for you to look back in, and sometimes you might have a really good idea and you can go back and actually save it. So you need JSBin. Now the other thing that you need is you need an up-to-date web browser. Now this is either Internet Explorer 9, the latest version of Firefox, or the latest version of Chrome. Now for all of my web programming tutorial series, I use Google Chrome, and the reason is it has the best support out of all of them. I highly recommend that you do use Chrome, and if for whatever reason you're going through this tutorial series and all of a sudden something doesn't work, or something you type in exactly the way I type it in and it ends up looking a little different, chances are the reason is you're not in Chrome. Chrome has the best support for HTML5 and just general web support. So I highly recommend just using Chrome. You can use other browsers and they will for the most part work. However, Chrome is usually the best. Now the second thing that I want to talk about is that in this tutorial series, I'm going to show you how to use HTML. Now, the only way you get better at programming is to do it. You can't, for the most part, just listen to this tutorial series. You want to actually do it. And if you just type in what I type in, you'll have something at the end to show for it. It's just a very simple tutorial series on HTML, and you just have to type it in and just go through the tutorial series just the same way that I'm doing this here. So if I type something in, you type something in, etc. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's start programming HTML. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back everyone. Now before we get started, I just wanted to tell you one more thing about the format of this course. The lectures are going to be really short, and over time a lot of my students have said that this is the preferred way to go. The reason why I like super short lessons is that you can go to the next lesson whenever you have a spare moment or two. And sometimes if you have, let's say, a really long course, let's say, or a really long lecture, you know, that's something like an hour or something like that, you pick up where you left off, where in this case you can just simply listen to a tutorial now and there if you have a minute or two. If you're commuting, you can go ahead and listen to them, etc. The other thing is that everything is nice and neat. The way I structure these lessons is that it's very nice and neat, and you can go back to it. So if there was something, for example, paragraph tag, we can go to a lesson with a paragraph tag, etc. Alright? So the first thing we need to do is we need to set up an HTML body. Now, if we take a look at JSBin here, you'll see that at the top we have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, console, and output. Now you can click the console here, but we won't use that. In fact, I do have courses for CSS and JavaScript, and you can just message me if you want to get into those. But you'll see that the way this works is that you can see that there's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and if we type something in here, so if we type in, you know, something in here, it comes up in the output here, and you can kind of see that here. It comes up right there. right? And that's not necessarily the way HTML is done. We have to actually physically set up the body and everything like that. But the way JSBin works is that it renders the program in real time, meaning that if I type in something in HTML and some code, it's going to render in the output in real time. So I'm just going to go ahead and close those two because the only thing we need to worry about here is the output. Okay, so JSBin, what it does is it renders everything in real time, and that's awesome because you can test as much as you want. Okay, we're going to set up the body in the next tutorial. I'll see you guys next time. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so let's go ahead and let's make some HTML from scratch here. Now, you probably have something, if you've just come to JSBin, in the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I just want you to highlight everything and delete that. The reason is that if you want to, what we're going to do is we're going to actually start everything from scratch here. And actually, one of the best things you can do once you're finished this course is to write out HTML code on a piece of paper. In fact, a lot of programmers who are really good at programming have done this. And all you have to do is get some kind of piece of paper or notebook and just write out the code as much as you can. Now, what we need to do here is we need to set up the HTML document. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to call the greater than and less than sign. And that's just above the period and comma, push shift. And what we're going to do is we're going to type in exclamation point, and we're going to type in doc type. And doc type is going to be all in capitals, and we need to type in HTML. Okay, that's pretty simple, right? So you got doc type and HTML. So what this is that when the computer reads any kind of program, whether it's like a C++ program or an HTML program, it reads it line by line. And the reason why we need this line of code is we need to tell the internet browser what kind of document this is. In this case, it's an HTML document. Okay, and so we can go ahead and push return, and you'll notice that JSBin has colored this text in gray. And the reason why it's done that is that you'll find out that a lot of things are color-coded in programming, and it will differ from language to language. But in this case, it just ends up being gray. And the reason why it's colored in is because it makes it look a lot easier to read. Okay, so the next thing we need is we need another greater than and less than sign, and we're going to type in HTML. Now, you need this at the top because, again, the way HTML works is we have these things called tags. And anything within these tags is going to be within a certain command that we're going to give the computer, right? So most tags, not all of them, but most tags have a beginning and an end. So you can see that the first tag here is just HTML, and then the second tag is just /HTML. That's all it is, okay? So it's pretty simple. Now, what we can do here is that this is the top of the tag, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to push return a few times. Maybe something like that. So now that we have HTML in the top here, we can put in another kind of tag. And you'll see that we nest tags a lot. So we have a tag within a tag. The second tag we need is a body tag. So in this body tag is going to be the body of the code. So we're going to put in, we can put in our images, we can put in our text, we can put in all that cool stuff with HTML here. And of course we need to close it off. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and do /body here. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't do /body up here. Well, we could have done that. In fact, believe it or not, this and this, I'm just going to delete this here, is exactly the same. And the reason why it's exactly the same is that white spaces within HTML are completely irrelevant, right? So I can do this 1,000 times. I can return this 1,000 times, and it's not going to make a difference. The reason is that, again, this space here is seen as nothing, okay? And for the most part, you can just go ahead and you can add in your other code here. So that's pretty much what you need to do to set up an HTML document. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so now that we have our basic document, we need to go put stuff in here. Now, you'll notice that if you type in something here, it'll just simply come up on the screen. Now, for the most part, you don't want to do that. And JSBin kind of just does that for you. But what you really need to do is anything that you put inside an HTML document, you need to put in tags. So For example, you saw we have the HTML tag, we have the body tag. Let's go ahead and let's add in something called a paragraph tag. So it's just simply P, and then we're going to close off that tag right away. You want to get in the habit of closing off that tag. Okay. Now, you'll notice that if we go ahead and put the capital P, this turns red, and the reason is that it should be all lowercase. Okay, and you'll notice that things that turn in red in JSBin will equal some kind of error or warning. Now, if you get a warning, don't worry about it. You'll just work through it. Lots of times when professional programmers are coding, there's warnings all over the place. I know I do that. Everyone does that, but they go ahead and they fix them. Okay, so now that we have a paragraph tag, we can type in whatever we want. Okay, and you'll notice that this is exactly the same as what we did before. Well, the reason why we need to put things in tags is we can put attributes in to this tag. We can put in the font, the color, the alignment, all this cool stuff. And I'm going to show you that in a different tutorial, but I do want to show you one other thing here. Okay, so we have our basic website, and remember, these white spaces don't really matter. I can do this as much or as little as I want. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put in something called a header. Okay, so I'm just going to type in H1. So we have paragraphs and we have headers. Okay, and you'll notice how if I don't close this tag off, you'll see that the word awesome is now bigger, and that's what the header does. It makes the text bigger. Okay, and if I close this off, awesome goes back right to the lower case, and the reason is because again, I've closed off the tag. So remember, this header tag works all the way until it's closed. So if I put the header tag like this, that means the paragraph is within header. Now, what I've shown you here is something you don't want to do. I'm just showing it to you just to kind of make a point. So generally, what you want to do is you want to have a tag and you want to close it off right away when you're first starting out. Later on, you can go ahead and nest them, but for the most part, you want to do it just like this. Okay, so we can type in header 1 like that. Now there are 6 different kinds of headers, and you can type in header 2. And just for practice, let's go ahead and let's type them all out. Okay, so we got header 2, we got header 3. And then again, I'm closing all these off, right? And you'll notice that you can't do header 4 like that, right? Because again, you haven't set up the first tag of header 4 and it turns red. It means there's an error. Okay? And again, sometimes you just might make a mental mistake, and you might just put in something like, you know, header 4, and something happens. It happens all the time. Remember, you just have to make sure that you reread your code, and everything will be fine. And the last one here is going to be header 6. Okay, and you can see it's not that difficult. Okay, and I've closed everything off here, and I'm just going to type in header 2. And if you really want to, you can copy and paste this. You know, you can just paste it. It's not really that difficult. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and you can see that we have all these different kinds of headers, and you can see that the paragraph's actually bigger than header 5 and 6. But you can have all those headers if you want, and that's essentially what it is. Now, can you only have one header 1 tag? No, you can copy this, and you can have 1,000 of these if you want, right? You can have as many or as little of them as you want. I'm just showing you how to set everything up, all right? And so for the most part, these are the 2 things that you'll be working with, okay? In the next tutorial, we'll talk a little bit more about what you can do with these. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so one thing we can do is we can actually give attributes to any one of these tags here. Now, for example, let's just take the header 1 tag, and what I'll do is, before we do that, I'm just going to put the paragraph tag in here. And the reason why I'm doing that is just you usually see the header 1 and the paragraph tag together. So watch this. If I type in style, okay, and the word style is actually really important here, because what we're doing is we're really stylizing the text here. So what we can do is we can actually go style, and then we can go equals, okay, and then we can go color, colon, and then we can type in a color name. So you'll notice that everything has gone red. If I type in another quotes here, everything goes well here. Now, when you're working with style tags, the format is style equals, and then you need to put quotes. And in these quotes is going to be a property of what you're going to change this text to. So in this case, we can change the style and the color of the text to anything we want. So let's try orange and see if that works. And guess what? It does work. Okay, we can try blue. Right? We can try maroon. Right? And you can see it all works. Okay, I like orange personally. All right, there we go. So now you can see that header 1 is orange. Now, can we do this to the paragraph tag? And you'll notice how none of the other texts have changed color. It's only in this H1 tag. Now, watch what happens when I go ahead and I put in another H1 tag. I'm going to say another header. Okay, and we're going to go /H1, and you'll see that another header is not in orange, and because we haven't told it to do orange. And again, that's really the essence of computer programming, is that you tell the computer what to do. We've told this H1 tag to go and change the color to orange, but we haven't told this H1 tag to do that, so it's not going to do that. Now, again, with web development, a lot of back-end has been set up for you. So if we were to do this in, let's say, something like C++, there would be a lot more programming to do. Okay? So the other thing you can do is you can actually go and change the font as well. So again, we use the same format, and anything you want to change here is really different here. And what we need to do is type in font family, okay, and colon, and we can type in courier, just like that, and you can see that it changes the font family to courier, and that's actually kind of cool. So that's essentially it, really. You can change it, the font family, you can change a whole bunch of different things. For example, if we go here, we can go to style, and again, you always need the style equals in the 2 quotes, and sometimes I like to just type in the 2 quotes, and we can type in this background color, okay? And what are we going to change the background color to? Let's change it to orange, okay? And there we go. You can see that the background color is now orange, and that's actually kind of cool. So the way it works is that there's going to be the style, and you give it a property, and that's essentially all you need to know with style points. Now, there's a whole bunch of other properties we can do, but for the most part, this is just the basics of it. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so what happens if you want to do more than one style point? Well, there's a couple things that we have to do. The thing is that let's just take a look at this header 1 here, and let's go ahead and let's add in something. Let's change the font. So what we'll do is we'll type in a semicolon. Now, technically, all of these need a semicolon here, and you can go ahead and put those in if you want to. If you're only doing one, you don't technically need one, but if you're doing more than one, you do need one. And it's best that you use a semicolon and maybe just get in the habit of putting it in there anyway. The semicolon is a really important character in computer programming, and the reason why is that usually a semicolon tells you that the computer's done reading that line. So in most other programming languages, and keep in mind that there was a lot of programming languages before HTML, and HTML has built upon those programming languages. So in most programming languages, you'd have something that says, you know, output to screen, semicolon, next line, and do the code and whatever. And that's essentially where this comes from. So again, if we have the semicolon here, you can just type in another property here. So you can type in font family. Okay, we're going to type in colon, and we can just type in courier, because I love that font. It's kind of cool, just like that, and you can see it instantly changes. And we can do this all day if we want to. So watch this. We can go to background color, and we can go black. Okay, and there you go. You can see the background color is there. Now, there's one other thing that you'd probably like to do. The other one is text align. All right. Just like this, and you can say center, just like that, and you can see that the text align is center. You can also type in right, Okay, and just because for the video tutorial purposes, I'm not going to resize the window. But if you resize the window, you'll see that the output will form to the window here. Okay, and if it does form to the window, that's actually kind of cool in the way that it does that. And if we were to do this in another programming language, what would end up happening is there'd be a lot of code just to do that. In fact, when I've made games for Xbox 360, doing that was actually quite a bit of a challenge. All right, so you can add in more than one style point here. In another course is dealt with CSS, where what it does is it takes all these style points and puts it in a different document. All right, so what we're doing is we're doing the style points of CSS right in the HTML. But that's fine. I'm going to show you some more cool stuff in HTML. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so you can see that this looks a little bit complicated here, and the reason why I have such a small window, and you probably have a bigger window than I do, and the reason is just because this is the best way to view all the content at once without the screen shaking around. All right. In my earlier courses, I used to really format everything, but I got some complaints, so I just essentially do it like this. So this here looks really complicated as of now, right? So let's just go ahead and let's just delete all the style points here because we don't technically need them. Now, again, what will end up happening is programming might look really complicated, but once you know how to navigate it, it's actually much simpler. So let's just go ahead and let's just get rid of all of that. Okay. Now, one thing you can do is you can put tags within tags here, and to demonstrate that, let's type in a little bit more text to the paragraph here. All right. So one thing we can do is we can go and type in "This is an awesome paragraph." Simple enough. Okay. Maybe put some exclamation points, etc. Okay. The one thing you can do is watch this. If I type in the word "be," guess what? The rest of the text becomes bold, and that's pretty simple. Now, I can make as much or as little text bold until I put in the /b, and then it just becomes bold here. Okay. Now, what we can also do is we can type in a U, and that becomes underline. We can also type in an I, which becomes italicized. And we can also put EM, which is also italicized. I generally like to use bold, underline, and italicized just because that's what you usually see in most word processors. Now, the question is can we have more than one tag here? Well, watch what happens when I put in another bold tag here. Okay, you'll see that the rest of the text becomes bold. And let's just take a look at this. Remember, with HTML, everything hops within between tags here. So we have the italicized tag. If I highlight it like this, you'll see that the word only awesome here is italicized, and because there is a closing tag. Here, there is no end of bold tag, so it just by default goes to the rest of the rest of that. And you'll see that these two tags are in red is because there's an error there. They're saying that for the most part, there is no bold close tags because the B needs a close tag. So you can put the bold tag here, or if I just cut this out, and I can put it there too, right? But you'll see that that is technically incorrect, and for the most part, it doesn't like that. So you can just go ahead and put that back there, okay? And of course, if you really wanted to, you can go ahead and put in an underline, okay? And of course, where are we going to put that underline here? We're going to just put it right there, okay? And there we go. So you can see that. I have a whole bunch of tags within tags here. And the way that I like to view this is that you have, whenever you need to call a certain function from the computer or get the computer to do anything, just call it when you need it. All right? I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everybody. All right. So there's a couple of things we can do here. First of all, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these tags here. And just so that I can show you what's going on here. Now, another thing you can do, another tags you can do EM, which is essentially emphasize. It, again, makes it more italic. You can make it strong, which is essentially bold. What you can also do is you can call sub, which puts it underneath. and then SUP to superimpose the text. You can also put a strike through, and you can put just like that. All right, now of course, all of those tags need a closing tag. I was just doing that to show you what you can also do. So why don't you go ahead and what I want you to do is set up maybe 2 or 3 paragraph tags. And I just want you to play around with the text as much as you possibly can. Because remember, when you're programming, you want to do and you want to experiment, and you want to try, and you want to do pretty much, well, anything other than just listen and forget about it. You just want to go and try it as much as you can. All right, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so let's go ahead and put in a link. What would be a website without links? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type in A and then href equals and 2 quotes. Okay, and I'm going to type in whatever website you want. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that off, and I'm going to type in another A like this right here. Now you'll notice nothing has happened, and the reason is that we need to add in some text here. So watch this. It just is a little bit like this. We're going to go Mammoth Interactive. Okay, there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do 2 things. I'm going to move that up here, and I'm going to move this out. So forget about the output for just a second here. What is really happening here is that it's technically what's happening is this, and it should look like this on your computer. Again, you probably have a bigger bigger screen than I do, but again, for video purposes, this is the best format for the course. So as you can see here, we have the ahref. And what it is you put in whatever link you want. That's all it is. And and then here you just type in whatever you want to be in there. And this could be anything you want. It could be my awesome website, like that. But it's always good to label everything here. Okay. Now you're probably noticing this little thing up at the top here. Sometimes it happens where you can't save your file here, and it automatically saves it, by the way. So if that happens, you just push dismiss. Okay, and so again, if we go ahead and let's go ahead and click this link, you can see that in the output it does navigate to where it is. Now obviously my website doesn't exactly work with this here, but as soon as you push space, it goes right back to that. So that's all it is. That's all a link does. Okay, and that's how you set up a link. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so I've shown you how to put in a link. Let's go ahead and let's put in an image. All right, I wouldn't be giving you a good HTML tutorial if you didn't get an image. Now what I want you to do is go to any website, and I want you to find a good image, and I want you to right click, and I want you to go to copy image URL. Now you can't really see that there because it came out of the video here, but you can just go to copy URL like that, and then we can hop back in here. It's pretty simple. All you have to do is type in img src, which is source, equals, and then 2 quotes, and then close that off. And all you do is you put in the, you just put it in right there. And as you can see, it works out here. Now this image here is actually quite a bit bigger. And what you can do here is you can actually change the size. So watch this. Right now, the image works the way it works, right? It puts on the screen. We haven't changed anything. We can add a bunch of properties to this. So watch what happens when we put the width. We're going to go to equals and put a couple quotes. And let's say we put 100. That means the width of this image is going to be 100 pixels. If we type in 1,000, you can see that the width is 1,000. Now, obviously, if I take a look at this here, 1,000 stretches out this image, and you can see how it's all blurry. You never, ever want that. I'm just showing this to you for demonstration purpose. And if you want to do, let's say, something like 2,000, right, you can see that it gets even bigger. Let's just go back to about 300, okay? That's very similar to what it is here. Now, you'll notice that if I put the width just like this, it scales the width and the height. But if you want to make the height equal to something, let's say 100, like this, you can see that the height is now 100 and the width is now 300. Let's make this a box, all right? So everything is now distorted, and again, you don't want this, but I'm just showing you that if you put either one of width or one of height, it's going to scale it what we call proportionally, meaning that the width is going to be 300 and the height is going to scale proportionally. So if the width is 300 and the original, which is 2 times, so let's say we have 150 width and we scale it up to 300, so that's twice the amount of width, and the height was 100. If we just put the width down, the height would then be 200. It's pretty simple, okay? So if you want to go ahead and you can add in different kinds of you can add in different widths to your image if you want to. However, it's best that you go and make the image to whatever size you need for the website. So if you are in Photoshop or something like that, and you need an image that's 300 by 100, make it 300 by 100. What you can get away with, however, is you can get away with shortening the image. So if you make something, let's say by 500 by 300, you can scale that down. It's always better to scale down than to scale up. All right? So that's how you add an image. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everybody. All right. So what happens if we want to make this image a link? Well, right now it's not a link, but we can make it a link. And watch this. This is actually quite cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and shorten this for a bit. And if we look at here, we have our ahref, and that's our link right here. And we also have our image source right here. Okay. There's actually a really simple thing that we can do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, cut this by pushing Control or Command X. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go delete that. And I'm going to push the A tag right at the end of the image tag. Okay? So let's put this back here. And there we go. It works out pretty well. All right, and you can just push space to go back, because every time you make an adjustment in JSBin here, what ends up happening is it refreshes. Okay, so let's take a look at this here, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So we have our ahref, which is our link. We have our image, and we just put the end tag after the image. It's just that simple. Okay. Now you'll notice something a little bit different about this image tag, which I didn't talk about in the last tutorial. Just take a quick look. And you'll notice that there is no end tag for the image. And the image tag is one of those tags where it doesn't have an end tag to it. So some of them don't have them, but most of them do. All right. So that's how you add a link to an image. And by the way, if you ever need to edit HTML, you can go ahead and do this anywhere. All right. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so I've gone ahead and deleted out the link and the image, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make an unordered list. So as you can see here, we have a paragraph, and to make an unordered list you need to type in the UL and the /UL. So see, we do that and nothing happens because we have to add in a list item as well. So you start off with the list tag, and then you give up the list item tag. So li, and all it's going to be is we just say maybe item 1, and we have to close that off too. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this 3 times, so paste it, and then change up the images here just like this. Okay, you can type them out, and by the way, typing things out for practice purposes is actually really good. I'm just doing it to save a little bit of time in the videos. Okay, so now we have an unordered list, and you see that there's a little bullet there. And whenever you're prototyping, it's a good idea to go ahead and change everything so everything makes sense. So instead of saying this is an awesome paragraph, you can say this is an unordered list. Simple enough, okay? Now I'm going to copy this entire paragraph and list. I'm going to paste it in here. The next type of list is called an ordered list, and the only thing that changes is you change UL, which is unordered list, to OL, which is ordered list. And you see the difference here is that one is just simple bulleted items, and the other is simply 1, 2, 3. It's ordered. Simple enough. The last type of list is a definition list. And what these definition or description lists do is you, instead of typing OL, you type in DL. Okay, so let's go ahead and type this in. And the reason why I'm definitely typing this in is they're just a little bit different. Okay, so what you need here is you definitely need the two kinds of you need two kinds of tag here. So the first one we'll type in is DT, and we'll say item 1, and then we'll go /DT. Okay, we'll hop over to the bottom here, and you can see there's nothing really special about that. All right, but the next thing we're going to do is we're going to type in DD, and we're going to say item 1 description. Okay, and here we go. We'll type in /DD like that. There we go. And so as you can see, we have the item 1 and then the item 1 description. And I'll paste this in a couple times, and we'll make this 2, 2, and then 3, and then 3. So there we go. We have item 1, and then item 1 description, item 2 description, item 3, and then item 3 description. All right, it's just that simple. So you have all these kinds of lists here, and you'll notice that for the first two, the unordered and ordered list, you'll see that there are list items, and these are the exact same tag, by the way. They just need to be nested within this here. And then the definition list, it changes up a bit. Okay, you can actually have a list within a list, which is kind of cool. So watch what happens if I type in. Let's say we have an ordered list, and then I type in unordered list here, right? And you can see that instantly it changes. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to type in /UL here, and if we put in a list item, so like this, you can see that I can add in a list item just like this. And what I'm going to do is okay, there we go. So you can see that we have more items here to take a look at here. So we got 1, and then we can have a whole bunch of things too. And you can actually mix and match. One thing that's really good about HTML is that you can mix and match a lot of the stuff. In other programming languages, they're not as forgiving, and you can't really do that. All right, and that's lists. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so I've deleted all that lists code there, and what we're going to do in this tutorial is I'm going to show you how to put up a table. Now, up until recently, a lot of the web has been built off of tables, and it's kind of an old part of the web, but I do want to show you how to build a table anyway. So we do need a table tag, and this one's going to be a little bit different. And I'm just going to type in table here, and of course we need that / in there. And what we need to do is we actually need to type in something called border equals, and then of 2 quotes, of course, 1. Okay, and the reason why we need that little border there is because otherwise it's not going to look like anything. So there are 2 things that we need to look at here. So the first thing is going to be table row, right, and then /table row. Okay, and for the most part, we have table row, and then in the table row we have table data. Okay, which is TD. And then we close off that tag as well. Okay, and we can say here, we'll just put item in there. Okay, and as you can see, that's a table there. And I'm going to copy and paste the table data. And there we go. Okay, so now you can see I'm just adding columns to the table by adding the table data. Okay, now if I added another table row, watch what happens. So we got another table row, and we got /table row. Right, and you can kind of see it on the underneath side here, but not really. But let's go ahead and put in a table data, and we'll just type in the word item again, because again I just want to show you what's going on here. And then we got TD here, and you'll notice that since there's only one table data here, so one column, the rest of these columns are blank. So what we need to do is we, for the most part, need to just copy and paste this over, and you can see that we now have items there. Now, you can copy and paste this as many times as you want. So I'm just gonna do that actually. So you can see that here, everything is that's pretty much what a table is, and you can put lots of different things in a table. For example, you can type in bold, right? And then you can see here that only that table data is equal to bold. Okay, it's pretty simple. And then we got the item here. That's pretty much what it is. You can format these. You can put pictures in them. You can put links in them. You can do pretty much whatever you want here. Okay. The only other thing that you can do here is I'm just going to go ahead and just type an item. Is you can actually add in something called a table header. Okay. And I'm just going to say item, and then I'm going to close off the table header. Okay. And for the most part, you can see that that is within this row, but watch what happens when you take it and put it outside the row. It ends up being its own little item here. So one thing you can do with table headers is, if you just look at this here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and we have 5 table items like this, okay? And you'll notice that here we had to put the table data like this, and there we go. We have all 5 items here within the table row, but the table header, you don't necessarily need to do that. And by default here, the table item is bold. Now, what would happen if we put in an H1 here? Okay, guess what? It would actually be a header 1. You can actually put in the header 1 tag within a table too, right? You can put in a lot of the tags here. And in fact, I would like you to go and just experiment with this, because one of the things that if you want to be a good programmer, you need to go experiment a lot. And when I mean a lot, I mean quite a bit, because a lot of the best programmers, they experiment quite a bit and then they prototype quite a bit as well. All right, and so that's how you add in a table. You can add in other items too, other style points, and I highly recommend you just try. There's actually a lot of stuff that I've taught you which you can just go ahead and add in, because HTML is, again, a really easy programming language to work with, and just go ahead and try. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. So I hope you've gone and you've played around with HTML a little bit, and you'll see how cool HTML is and how easy it is to just basically mash all the concepts together. In a lot of other programming languages, you can't just do that. You can't just take a concept and then put it somewhere else, because it might not work. But in HTML, a lot of the stuff will work out quite well, and if it doesn't work out, the program won't crash. It will just simply not run the way you want it to. So let's go ahead and let's just put in some cool stuff here. So, for example, we can put style equals color, okay? And I'm going to put the quotes there just because color, we'll say red, okay? And you'll see that red is there. And if we want to do, remember the semicolon you need at the end of that, and we can go within the quotes, of course, background color, let's say maroon. All right, there we go. Now that's a horrible color matching scheme, but this is a lot better. Now, obviously you want light and dark. One thing they used to do in a long time ago is they used to use the opposite of the color wheel. So just Google color wheel, and if you put the opposite, so the opposite of orange is blue. So you can see that the orange pops out here, and if we do the reverse here, so for example, blue and orange, like that, just like this here, you can see that the blue pops out as well. So the opposite of the color wheels will quite work, and that actually doesn't look terribly bad. Now you'll notice that the style points here, what they'll do is that if you want to use all the TH style points, we'd have to use CSS, and I will have a whole other 1-hour tutorial series on that. So if you're interested in just the style points, or CSS is actually quite powerful, and there's actually a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. In fact, you can even do 3D effects with CSS. It's something that's really cool here, but you can do pretty much anything you want. So let's go ahead and let's take in this table row here, and we can put style equals, and then let's do font family, okay, and we'll go courier, just like that, and you can see that the entire row becomes courier. All right. And semicolon, let's do color, or let's do background color. Background color, orange. I like orange. It's kind of a neat color here. Now, again, you can actually, in this table here, watch this. If I go, let's do style equals, and let's do font family, and let's do impact. I love this font. Okay, and you can see that the entire font become impact, except for the ones that I specifically said. Now, this is something that's really important here. So the entire table is going to be the default of impact, right? Except when I go to this table row that is the second or the first table row after the table header, I specifically say that this font should be Courier. So this style point overrides the default, because the reason is that this tag affects all of this table, but this tag affects this line. And if you add something within that line, it will supersede it. You'll always supersede the specific tag, and that's why there's a lot of tags in there. And you'll also see that, for example, you can have, let's say, a 3-paragraph website with 3 different paragraph tags, because each paragraph might have different formatting to it. That's something you might want to do, but that's how you'd have to do it. If you had one paragraph tag and you just kind of put in whatever you want there, it would be a hard way to format that. So usually you want to have the more tags for this specific reason here. All right, and another thing that we can do is, let's just go font size. All right, and we'll do 20px. All right, and I haven't shown you this yet, but you can essentially change the size. And again, it supersedes. Let's make it 40. I mean, maybe it's a bit too much. Let's make it 30 or something like that. Okay, maybe 25. And one thing that you'll notice is that you will be doing a lot of tweaking around with numerals, and it doesn't matter what you do. So you do this a lot in games, actually. If you're into game development, you actually do quite a bit of formatting there. All right, so the next thing we can do is, for example, if we wanted, let's say, this table, this one right here, if we typed in style equals font size, colon, and let's make it 50. Okay, and then in this case here, it doesn't quite work out because the table data is bound to that specific style here. Okay, and for the most part, that's how you add in table styles. All right, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. In this tutorial, well, let's talk a little bit about forms. So I'm just going to go ahead and say forms, and I can put in a paragraph saying, say, this is a form. All right. And for the form tag, all you have to do is type in form. And then, of course, the form needs a closing tag. And there you go. Now we need to put something in here. Usually what you can do is you can put a paragraph tag. And this is something I like to do. And I'll go ahead and what I'll do is I'll put the input within the paragraph tag. So watch this. So we got paragraph, and we can say, what is your quest? All right, and you can say input, and this input tag here is going to be what's the user inputs. And as soon as you can see I put input, you can go ahead and you can click something in here, and you can write something. So this input, we need a certain type because there's different types of input. In this case, we're going to make it equal to a text. Okay, there's other kinds. There's numbers. There's a whole bunch of other kinds. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in here. And the name is going to be equal to quest. Now, what all this is that it's a name that you can reference. Okay. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're just going to close off this paragraph tag. Okay, simple enough. Okay, and you can see that everything's on its line here. And I haven't mentioned this, but you've probably already noticed that once you close the paragraph tag, it automatically puts it to the next line. Okay, so what we can do is we can add another paragraph tag here. It's pretty simple. You can say, what is your favorite color? And you can spell this the British way if you want, or not. All right. again, you'll just put some input type equals text, of course, and the name is going to be equal, and then 2 quotes, we'll just say color, like that. Close this off, and then close the paragraph tag off as well. Okay, so as you can see, these are on 2 different lines here. Okay, and the last thing we can do is I'll just put this all up here. There we go. What is the speed of a bird? All right, and you can go input type equals, of course, text. And I know this seems a little tedious, but sometimes programming is like that. You just have to do some tedious parts. The most tedious programming is, believe it or not, in game development. Adding in achievements, or sometimes in-app purchases, or anything related to something in the back end of games can be extremely tedious. So just a heads up on that. It's good to just kind of I do all the tedious work at the same time. That way, I batch everything together. So what I do is, if I need to do a tedious, if I have, let's say, 5 different parts, I fill out the beginnings of all 5, and then I do all the tedious stuff all at once. I find it's a little more efficient this way. Anyway, the last name is going to be bird, and then close the tag off, and we'll close the paragraph tag off. Okay, there we go. And so that's essentially it. Now you can see we can have, what is your quest to find the grail? What is your favorite color? Blue. And then what is the speed of a bird? You can say African bird or American bird. Whatever you want. That's essentially how you add in user input. One other thing that you will need to do if you're into JavaScript is you need to put ID equals to you can say like quest ID or something like that. And the reason is that if you want to call this in JavaScript, you do need that ID tag there. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some other field types here. Now, what I like to do is I like to put the paragraph tag here, and then put the input. So in this case, I'll just say something like input password, like this. And you don't technically have to put the paragraph tag there, but I like to put it there anyway. Okay. And so it is the same thing. Input, and then the type is equal to of type password. Okay. And then the name is, it's always good to give a name, can be password. Okay. Now, one thing I should point out is that I have password in two different areas here. Okay, and you can actually, if you really want to think of it, I have it in three different areas. I have password here, and password here. So let's just quickly talk a little bit about what words you can use. Now, depending on the programming environment, you may or may not be able to use certain words. Okay, and for example, password might be what they're called reserved words, meaning that if you use this reserved word, then you can't use it in the way that you're thinking of. So for example, if you're using password and the computer views the word password as something functional to the program, then you can't do it. All right, because the computer's thinking it's something else. Now, when you put something in a paragraph tag, you can put whatever you want. It could be a password, it could be anything, right? But when you put something in quotes, usually in programming, it means that you can make something here that's not that you can take as a reserved word and use it whatever you want. So of type password, now you can't type whatever you want in here. There's a certain kind of type that it has to be, otherwise the computer is going to return some kind of error. And then the name here, you can pretty much put whatever you want. Now, HTML is a little bit not specific on this. So if you're going further into programming, just realize that this has to be an issue. I remember that it was an issue for me. Okay, so we got input password, and I'm just going to close off the paragraph tag here. All right, and if I just move this over, You can see that when I type in the password, it doesn't matter what I type, it comes out as circles, and that's essentially what it is. That's all it really is there. Now, what we can do is, I'll just get rid of the word password. I'll just keep the word input here. There's other things you can do. You can add in checkboxes. All right. So of type, right, we can call this checkbox, and then you can see that if I move this back over here, we have the checkbox here. Okay, and I'm just going to put the name as input, just like that. And there's another type you can do. You can actually do radio. So if you see a type radio, you'll see that in here. Now, let's just go ahead and let's copy this out a few times. Okay. So now that we have a few different radio buttons here, and I'm going to copy this out, and I'm going to change this to checkbox. Okay. So I'll copy this out a few times. So watch what happens. I'll show you the fundamental difference between the two. Okay? And so you can see here that we have one radio button, and you can see that I can only select one radio button. And there's a reason for that, and it's because radio buttons you can only have one selected, whereas the checkboxes you can have all of them selected. Pretty simple, right? Now watch this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to delete this here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this here, and I'm just going to delete all this white space here. Now, if I copy the entire form tag and I have two radio buttons, watch what happens, right? I can select both of them. Why can I do that? Okay, and the reason why I can do that is because anything within the form tag as a radio button, I can only select one. So let's say you have, if I just type in a paragraph 1, you like another paragraph here, and I say this is idea 1, right? And I close off the tag, and then I hop over here and I type in this is idea 2, and then I close off the tag here. You know, if you need to have different radio buttons for different types here, this is where you'd use it. All right, and so that's essentially what you need to do for radio buttons and checkboxes. And if you want to have a password field, you can add that in too. I'll see you guys next time. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this second form here, and I might as well delete this paragraph tag here. Now, the only other thing that you can do, and this kind of wraps up part of what the course does, is you can add in a submit button. Okay, so as you can see here, I have an input and it's a text, and if you want to submit what's in this text and even use some JavaScript or just essentially send like an email to yourself, that's essentially what you need to do is add in a button. Okay, and so adding in a button is actually pretty simple. Okay, all we need to do is we need to type in input. Okay, and then after that, all we do is type in type, and there's a certain kind of type which is called submit, and then we can give it a value, and this value we can call it, you know, enter or something like that. And again, I like to put in the ID. You can say something like JS submit. Okay, something like that. Okay, now you'll also see that the value here is, if I type in whatever I want here, it changes to that here. So you can say submit if you want to email. All right, and you'll also notice that it's on the same line. Now, I haven't taught you this yet, but it's actually really important. Is if you ever want to break up the line here. So, for example, if you want to put let's say the input on a different line, or this email, you use one line of code, which is just simply BR, which is short for break. Okay, and so anytime you need to break anything up, you just type in BR break. There's no closing tag. It's just simply BR. Okay, it's pretty simple. And as you can see, we can have submit to email. Again, I like to put the ID in there just because you want to call that up in JavaScript. Okay, and so what you could do is, of course, this doesn't do anything, but you can say, this was so much fun, something like that, and then you can submit it to email like that. And of course, it doesn't do anything because obviously we haven't told it to do anything. All right, and so that's essentially it in terms of buttons here. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so for the most part, we're done this course, but there is a couple things that I do want to talk about. And the first thing is that I want to talk a little bit about JavaScript. Now, I have a 1-hour JavaScript course, and if you're into JavaScript, I highly recommend taking it. JavaScript, if you know how to program in JavaScript and you know how to do it well, you can forever be in a job because there's just so much opportunity. People ask me to do it all the time. However, I don't have time for it. But for the most part, if you're into JavaScript, I would highly recommend that you go ahead and learn it. Now, what is JavaScript? So there is a script tag, okay? And if you just type in script and /script, okay? And that's pretty much all it is. I'm just going to move this down a bit, okay? And just make sure you do that with the tag. So there we go. And one thing about the script is, well, what do we do with JavaScript? Well, the way you think of it is HTML displays what you need to do. CSS designs and styles what you do, and JavaScript adds functionality to it. So if you wanted to, let's say, make a calculator in JavaScript, it'd be a lot easier than in HTML. I mean, it's not impossible in HTML, but you know, JavaScript adds that kind of computing functionality to your web page. Now, the other thing is that JavaScript is not Java. Those are two different programming languages, just so you know. Okay, so the one thing that you can do is that in this JavaScript, you can call this button here. But I'm just going to show you a couple of things. So I'm going to call this alert, and I'm just going to say pop. Now this is like your simple JavaScript, and I might as well show you some of this here. Now if you go ahead and push run with JS, you'll see that it comes up with a simple pop here. Now this script tag is a mini area where you can put in JavaScript, and it actually is kind of cool. Now if you hop over and click the JavaScript, you'll see that when you go run with JS, it does the exact same thing. And by the way, I just copied alert pop over, and you'll notice that there are quotes in there. So again, the way this HTML works is that you can set up JavaScript within your HTML document, or you can pull it up in a separate JavaScript page. Now, the way this works is that you would technically call this JavaScript page to run the JavaScript code. If it was, let's say, you know, if you had several different kinds or several different files of JavaScript, you'd probably just call it up in the HTML. Or what you would do is you just put in the script tag. Now, usually it's better to get a whole separate file. It's a lot cleaner, and a lot of beginner programmers make this mistake where they put everything in the same file, and that makes perfect sense when you're starting out, but eventually you want to make sure that everything's in its own separate file. All right, and so that essentially wraps up the course, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Welcome back, everybody. All right, so guess what? You've just learned how to code in HTML. Now the thing is that what you want to do is you want to take all the concepts that I've shown you, and I want you to play around with it. I want you to play around with, you know, all the style tags, all the table tags, everything that we've done here. I just want you to play around with. Now the next thing that we want to do is learn CSS. Now CSS is what we do is we take all the style points and we put it in its own language in the CSS file. I will show you how to do CSS in 1 hour, and I'll show you all the main points in CSS in 1 hour. It's pretty simple, and I hope that that you do take the course. If you haven't actually messaged me, I can get you into the courses for a cheaper deal as a thank you for taking this course. All right, so I do have a lot of cool courses, and some of the courses include, you know, how to make apps without programming, how to make games without programming, you know, how to release app stores, how to make money with games. I have a lot of cool stuff. You can just check it out. You know, you can just check out what I have to offer at mammothinteractive.com. and you can get into these courses at a much lower rate than if you were to buy them individually. So if you like this, I have a ton of these 1-hour courses, and I hope that you take a lot of them, and I hope that you learn from them, because I do really put out these courses to make sure that you do learn as much as you can in as little time as possible for as little money as I can give these courses away for, because I do have a lot of experience making apps and games and software, and I do like sharing all my knowledge with the world. All right, so I hope to see you in the other course. Thank you for taking the course.